Hey gamers, welcome back to Game Master's Dungeon. I am Brian, your Game Master. Today we're gonna start diving in to that Dragon Ball RPG that I kind of showcased in the update video. We're gonna go over chapters basically 1 and 2, the introduction of the game, and then chapter 2 is character creation. Now we're not gonna create a character yet. We're gonna wait until at the end. So I plan to do 4 videos. It's the plan. So this video we're going to cover up through character creation. Next video we're going to talk about transformations, and then we're going to go over the key section, like the key abilities, key attacks, all that kind of stuff. Now there will be a lot of math in that. Someone would have a calculator handy. I definitely suggest going down to the link in the description box, going to the website of the creators page, downloading this version of the book so you can follow along. Also, so you can read through it at your leisure as well. Talk with your friends, especially if you guys are big Dragon Ball fans. So maybe start kind of coming up with a game so we can have some great conversations about it. Also, I'm going to update the Discord. I'm going to put some channels in there for just Dragon Ball RPGs. So if you guys are part of the Discord, you'll be able to go over there. You can talk about character creation. I'll put one in there for like GMs, like ideas of what kind of games to run. So we can all just kind of like brainstorm about that, come up with some cool ideas to games to run, things like that. It's all for you guys. So if you guys are not part of the Discord and you want to join the Discord and talk about just role-playing games in general or some of the bigger games, you're welcome to do so. We'd love to have you over there. But with all that said, we're going to go ahead and get on into it. All right, gamers, so here we are. So we've got our PDF pulled up for the Dragon Ball, the role-playing game. There's a link down in the description box below. If you haven't got it already and you want to follow along, go to that link to the community creators website. You can download the character sheet, and you can download this version, 0.52, that they've put out, and you can follow along at home. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right in. So we've got the special thanks page, table of contents. So we're going to do, like I said, introduction, character creation. Video 2, so part 2, we're probably going to go over the transformations, and then we're going to go over key chapter. Now, key chapter is only 10 pages, but it's going to be the most extensive part of video 2. There's a lot of math. So like I talked about in my channel update video, if you do not like math or the requirements of lots of, basically almost like some kind of a degree in math to do some of the stuff with key attacks, this might not be the game for you, but I'm going to do my best to go over it in a way so that we can all kind of understand. Now, they even say in that chapter that a lot of this stuff is not really play tested. So what's going to be great, we're going to be able to go look at this like as a group, as a community, and then if you want to, you can go to their website and you can leave feedback on what you think about their key system, especially if you play games with your friends at home. Get some games under the belt and see what you like and what you don't, just to help give them some feedback. Because since there's not like an official Dragon Ball RPG, well, there is that one that I did a video on a while ago, the old like Dragon Ball Z adventure game. I mean, I played that when I was in high school, so that's like 20 years ago. So we need something current, and I think this is probably one of the best that I've seen, and it looks really well done, almost professional quality, and I really enjoy the fact that they're putting all this together. They're incorporating stuff from Dragon Ball Z, Super, all this kind of stuff. So you're going to be able to have a lot of that stuff to have in your game to play with. So let's go ahead and get into it. So I went over the introduction chapter a little bit in my update video. So this game the dice it uses is the D10 system. So if you're familiar with World of Darkness, you're going to be pretty much right at home with that style of game, right? So you're going to have an attribute and a skill, so many dots in each. You're going to take, so say your GM calls for a roll, it's going to be a attribute and a skill together. So say I've got 3 dots in this attribute, 3 dots in this skill. I now have 6 dice, and I'm going to roll either against a set number of successes required, or it's an opposed roll, like my successes versus your successes. Do I get more? I succeed. If you get more, I fail, or you succeed, depending on what we're doing. And now they also have a thing we're going to go talk about later, like tiers of play. So what constitutes a success? The success is going to be, you're going to need a certain number on those D10s. Either that number or more will get you a success. Now, as your tiers of play, what they call it, tiers of play, improve, so tier 1, 2, 3, the number that you need is going to go down. So I believe it starts at a 6 or more. Then eventually it becomes like a 5 or more, 4 or more. So basically, the stronger you get, the easier things will be to accomplish using your skill. 1, you'll have more dice. 2, you'll have a better number to meet or beat on each dice to get a success. Well, we're going to talk about that later. So for now, just know that that's kind of like the synopsis of how the base, like the dice system, and how you're going to determine success or failure in the game is going to go. So the game also uses modifiers, so you get bonus dice or penalty dice. So bonus dice, if you're doing something where you have a favorable condition, the GM can award you bonus dice. Also, a lot of the transformations that we will again talk about in our next video will give you certain bonus dice to particular skills and or attributes while you're in that transformation. Good example, Kaioken and Super Saiyan give you additional combat-based bonus dice. Now, penalty dice is the reciprocal of that. If you're in a position where you have non-beneficial factors, the DM can impose a penalty dice. Basically takes away dice from your dice pool. Okay? Then what they also have what they call the gobble dice or nullification dice. If you're familiar with the World of Darkness series as well, you'll know that when you roll a 1 on one of your D10s, it will subtract a success. As an example, I roll 5 dice. Say I get 3 successes, like a 6, 7, and an 8, but then I roll a 1 in there. That 1 would take away one of my successes. Now I have 2 left. Okay? Then it talks about using the book. This is pretty standard in a lot of like official role-playing games. It just talks about how you're going to use the book. If you're GMing, things to read. If you're a player, maybe only read such and such chapters just so you know how to play your character, things like that. It does have a behind-the-scenes box, so with the gray box with the black header and the white text at the top, this is some of the stuff. There might be something covered in the page. You might see one of these little boxes that give you a deeper insight to a particular topic on that page. Goes over the basic, the most important rule, like it's in every role-playing game. Do whatever is the most fun for your game. Now, this is like deters against the rules lawyering, right? If something is fun, if you don't like a certain rule, or a rule is maybe making things that aren't fun, the GM, DM, whatever you want to call it, has the authority to either get rid of or to amend certain rules just to make things more fun and fluid for their game. Then what I talked about, it goes over the core mechanics, right? Adding your attribute and your skill together, relevant dice, bonus or penalty. Talks about passive opposition. So like one of the examples they will use, where is it? Right here, talk about just lifting a boulder, right? It's not an opposed check because the boulder is just an inanimate object. It just has a passive amount of successes you would need to lift a large object, okay? So we're not going to spend too much time on this. We're probably going to go more into the specifics of this section in the combat section, because that's where a lot of your opposed rolls and rules for rolls are going to be. But just know, right, so right here, the value, a 9 through a 6 counts as a success. 5 or a 2, nothing. 1 is detrimental. 10 adds a bonus dice to the pool. Just remember those basics, okay? Then it even gives you like a combo meter value, number of successes. Like if you get 7 successes, incredible, right? It's kind of cool they put that in there. Then it even breaks down. So, okay, so here's where kind of the math starts. This isn't like exceptionally necessary for you as the player, but as the GM, this is definitely a couple of charts you're going to want to look at when using passive opposition, right? If you want something of like, say this, if you want something just like potentially difficult, as an example, in the example they're going to use up here, right? They're going to talk about lifting the boulder. You need 4 successes to lift it, potentially difficult. Now, this first section, this assumes, like these probability percentages, assume you have 10 dice in your dice pool. 10 d10s, which is the maximum. 5 in your attribute, 5 in your stat. Normally, though, you're going to have about 5 to 6 dice, right? So then the probabilities change as well. So if you want something probably difficult, 3 successes is the same difficulty because you have the less number of dice. It talks about situational modifiers, all that stuff. Then it talks about opposed tests. Most of the time, it's going to talk about the example they use in here is stealth. The character is sneaking in to a building, and they have to make a stealth roll to avoid being detected by the guards. It's an opposed test, like their attribute plus stealth plus the guards. Like what's the skill name? I'm still learning all the skill names. So their intelligence plus perception, right? The GM would roll that. You would roll yours. Compare how many successes over here to over here. Whoever gets the most is going to succeed in that. So let's just get right into Chapter 2. Birth of the Mightiest Warrior. The strongest under the heavens arrives. All right, so first part is going to talk about character creation. It's going to talk about all your different steps you're going to go through in creating the character. We talked about the character concept. I talk about it a lot, actually. In my update video, you're going to want to come up with a concept for a character. If you're a big Dragon Ball Z fan, I'm wearing my shirt, seems appropriate, right? A little Goku, a little Vegeta. Maybe create a character like one of your favorite characters from the show, which you can do, which we're going to talk about how you can do that here in a minute. Or maybe you want to come up with a whole new kind of concept, a whole new idea. You want to run something that maybe never before been seen in the series. There's a lot of options here to allow you to do that. But you're going to come up with a concept first, then you're going to talk to the GM. Whoever's running this game is going to create a world and a storyline. They want to make sure your character is going to fit their story. Maybe they don't want to include a bunch of aliens and Saiyans and Arcosians and Majins and androids and stuff. Maybe they just want like an all-human game, right? So everybody's going to be human, right? Well, if you want to be like some weird beastman alien from outer space, you might not fit. So create your concept, check with the GM to see if it's appropriate. Work with the GM, come up with ideas on a character that you'll be satisfied and that they would be satisfied to let in their game. Okay? Next is going to talk about power level. Power level is referenced several times. This reference of power level determines how much starting experience points you will have to create your character. So if any of you are familiar with Mutants and Masterminds, you get X amount of points to build your character. And each skill and power and ranks and all that stuff all require a certain amount of points to purchase. The power level with the XP you gain works the same. You want to buy certain skills based on your aptitudes, requires a certain amount of experience points. Now they do suggest, for balancing purposes, right here, we recommend, see there's even some text errors, so let's just gloss over the text errors. That a character use no more than 150 experience points for key attacks. So you don't want to spend like 3/4 of your experience points in key techniques and then never be able to hit or do anything else with them because your skills and attributes are too low, if that makes sense. You got to have a balance, right? And then also, as you play the game, you'll be awarded with additional experience points, which then can be used to purchase new techniques and improve skills and things like that, just like most RPGs. Here it talks about, next you're going to choose your race and your aptitude, which we're going to go over here in a minute. It talks about your basic attributes. Determine what your character's basic attributes are. They're the framework of your character. Actual in-game abilities, so be careful when you pick them. Okay? You really want to put some thought into your character first before just going willy-nilly with your choices. Going to talk about skills. And then we're going to go over Z-Souls. I do have some thoughts on the Z-Souls, which when we get there, I'm going to talk about. And then it's got the finishing touches step, like a lot of RPGs have. A lot of calculations of derived stats from certain other stats, either multiples or added and divided, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. So first we're going to talk about power level. It even references kind of like what it means in like Japanese and what it means to the world of Dragon Ball Z. In this, it's going to talk about how much starting experience you're going to start with. So like, sure, as a GM, you could be like, well, I'm going to give everybody 600 XP or 1,000 if you want to start as a stronger game. Once again, it suggests that you start with 500. And kind of going over like a basic character creation, 500 can get you quite a decent character. You know, somewhere in the lines of maybe Saiyan Saga, DBZ, maybe end of Dragon Ball, into Saiyan Saga kind of thing. If you guys download this and you read through this and you're following along, I'd love to see some like comments and your thoughts down in the comments section about what you think about the starting amount of experience points that you get and how you think building your character, like how strong you feel versus like where it would maybe be in the series starting out, because I think that's a good spot where they're trying to aim for. All right, so next, so then determining the starting power level is, like I said, is right here. Honestly, up to the discretion of GM. Obviously, the higher the power level, the stronger everyone will be. I definitely suggest starting out if this is your first time running it. Like if I were to run this game, I'm just going to go with the 500. I don't want like planet destroying energy attacks being thrown around all the time, because it's going to be kind of hard to get your head around in your first few games. I'm not saying you can't do it, but let's start like start small, work our way up. All right, so now we're going to be into races. So first thing we got to talk about real quick, it's kind of weird where they put this right here. So this is a list of all of the different aptitudes that your character can potentially acquire. I think this would be better suited maybe somewhere else. I'm just kind of spitballing, like if I was going to put the book together, where would I put this? Because if you're just kind of perusing through, you're just like, wow, aptitudes, blam, races. Because then you got to look right in here, right? So each player begins with 2 aptitudes and may choose any single additional aptitude. Now, this doesn't mean you get 2 aptitudes and an extra and what your race gives you, from what I understand, right? You're going to get the 2 that the race provides, and then you get a third one that you may choose freely to help customize your character. Aptitudes: agility, charisma, defense, intelligence, key, offense, social, strength, and toughness. So let's just get into the races. So we kind of talked about some of these in my update video. So the first one is obviously human, right? Most games you're going to have or play are probably going to be on Earth, right? Because people that are fans of the series, they do a lot with it in the series, so it's a good place to start. Obviously, you can start wherever, but if you start on Earth, there's going to be a lot of humans on Earth, so humans is always a good pick. In most role-playing games where humans is a choice, like, say, Dungeons & Dragons, humans is always a good choice. Humans here are a pretty good choice. So their aptitudes, you get defense and charisma, and then you got your racial traits that you gain as well. So you get the 2 aptitudes, like I said, then you'll choose a third, and then you get these 2 racial traits. So you get gifted. Like, as a race, they has shown that they are incredibly talented. Basically, when purchasing skills, right here, this section right here, when purchasing skills, humans may spend experience as though they have 1 aptitude relevant to that skill if they would otherwise pay full price. So once we get down into skills, you'll kind of see how that correlates to that. But this is pretty good. So that means even if you have no aptitude, you're still not going to be paying full price. So you're going to get cheaper cost on all of your skills. So you'll be able to buy potentially more skills. Then they also have tough as tough as nails. Humans are incredibly resistant to damage. When they burn a fate point, which we'll talk about later, to survive a wound roll, they roll a d10. On a 10, the fate point returns to the character at the end of the session. Now, if any of you have played say, Death Watch or any of those, the Fantasy Flight 40K games. This fate point business is, to me, is very reminiscent of that, because you'll have X amount of fate points that you can use for certain things. But also, if you were to say a blow would kill you, you could permanently lose a maximum fate point to avoid like dying, or you can basically die in style. I know the one, so like in Death Watch, you could use it in a way that you appear dead, but maybe you're not, so the GM could have some story with how you survive and your character can come back and things like that. That was the purpose of the fate point in that system. This serves a lot of the same purposes in this, which I think is pretty cool. Thinking of that, really, going through a lot of this, looks like they've taken a lot of inspiration from several different games, which I kind of like, because I love the World of Darkness series. I love its dice system, and I'm so glad that they used that system in this. But I always wondered, like, why not use the D20 system? Because it's like you can get like the open license for D20, or technically, since this is a community-created homebrew thing, you can really do with it whatever you wanted to. I would wonder what it would look like. Maybe they went with this because maybe it just works better? I don't know. Thoughts down in the comments. Next, we have the classic Saiyans, the Goku, Vegeta, the Broly, the Paragus, Tarble, Turlitz, Bardock. You know, the list goes on and on. So they get strength and offense, obviously, because they're like, you know, the warrior race. Then you get your Saiyan blood. Now this one, like looking at this, I could see like how Saiyans, because the thing about Saiyans, like using Saiyans like in like a role playing game, because normally when they get close to death or in battle, they get really strong or really fast. This is that, and how they do it is it's kind of cool. So for every level of fatigue, which we're going to talk about later, induced by damage, not something that you take like willingly, you get an additional 10% XP bonus for what I'm assuming whatever XP you would be awarded after that particular session or combat. You would get a bonus to that. So say you take 3 or 4 levels, 30 or 40% more XP, right? That's a ton, could potentially be a ton of experience points. And if it happens all the time, you're going to outscale really fast. So I would say as GMs, I'm even thinking to myself, like, how would I limit that, or how would I make that fair across the board? It's one of the things I would have to run a game and play with the rules and see how quickly the Saiyans potentially outscale like humans or Namex or whatever else. That's my only concern with that. But I like how they implement it. Then it's got the Saiyan tail. So if a Saiyan has their tail, they're able to transform by absorbing Blutz waves, a form of light that is reflected by the planet's moon. So basically you turn into the giant, the great ape. This character also gains the Ozaru transformation. Okay? So they get the big monkey form. I can see how that can get out of control real fast. But it's part of the race, right? Super cool. So next we've got half Saiyans. So as part of the part Saiyan and part human, half Saiyans may choose any 2 of the following aptitudes. So strength, offense, defense, and charisma. And they may take any single trait from Saiyans or humans in addition to their own. So technically you could take the Saiyan blood or the tail, and then you could come up here, you could take gifted if you wanted to as well, on top of what we gain. So we gain the uncontrollable rage. If any character in the half Saiyans party, including themselves, is forced to burn a fate point in order to recover from a fatal injury, or if a similar act of violence against a loved one is witnessed, the half Saiyan may choose to spend the remainder of their fate points to a minimum of 1 to enter a state of uncontrollable rage. For a number of rounds equal to the number of fate points spent, the half Saiyan is granted 2 consecutive turns in combat. That can be devastating. During these rounds, the half Saiyan must be in combat. The Saiyan also gains a number of bonus dice equal to the number of fate points spent for the duration of their outburst. So you say spend 3 fate points, it's 3 extra dice to all your actions in combat. That's pretty strong. Next, we've got Beastmen, so they show a picture of Beerus here. They get intelligence and social. Now, this doesn't have to be just that. You can come up with any kind of Beastmen like Bergamo, Beerus. What are some of the other characters? There's always like the dog people that you see on Earth, like in Dragon Ball Z, like early episodes, like the dog people, like the police dog dude. I guess maybe he's a Beastman. I don't know. They obviously get natural weapons, so they have like claws or fangs or something, talons, beaks. They can use it as weapons. They use martial arts to reflect that weapon as being part of them. It goes over the bonus damage of 2. Maximum successes they can gain from those natural weapons is 5. Then they have instinct. This is any non-key based sense that they make. They can re-roll. Because of hearing, smell, sight, whatever you want to, like however you want to describe it, which is pretty cool. Then we got the Namekians, so we got the Piccolo, the Nails, the Kamis, all that other stuff. So they start with intelligence and ki. You get the extending arms. So basically they can manipulate object with their hands at long distances, as well as attack opponents with single standard attacks or grapples at range, which is kind of cool. Then you get your regeneration as well. You may make so DN is difficulty number 5 healing test to replace any lost limbs or non-vital organs. Obviously the torso and the head cannot be regenerated. This takes a great deal of energy and as such inflicts a degree of fatigue when used. Next we have the Arcosians, so like Frieza, Frost, Cooler, King Cold, all that stuff. So it even talks about as such, by default, they remain in their first form. They have access to second, third, and final forms as well. So their aptitudes, agility, and charisma. They had prodigious skill. They're so absurdly strong that they have no need to train in order to hone their skills. When purchasing skills, pay as though you had 1 less aptitude than you actually have. When purchasing attributes or feats, pay as though you had 1 more. So you're not as skilled, but you have more raw potential, is kind of how that's reflected. Then you have superior survival. Basically, you cannot suffocate in space and cannot be poisoned. Kind of cool. Then you've got Majins. So we've got Boo. And then I want to say, there's a lot of new stuff in Dragon Ball. I want to say this character is from like the Dragon Ball Heroes, like the Dark Realm Saga or whatever it is. If you guys know who that character is there, that one with the red cape, put it down in the comments so I can check it out. So their aptitudes, you get defense and ki. You get amorphous body. You can spend a fate point. Temporarily redistribute the points invested in their physical attributes. Strength, toughness, and agility. This change lasts for a number of minutes equal to the sum total of the physical attribute points they possess. Afterwards, the Majin returns to their original attribute scores. You may also choose to revert to their original attribute score at any time. That's kind of cool. So say you're in a position, you're like, oh, actually I should be more tough, or I need more strength, or more. You can just redistribute stuff on the fly by spending a fate point. Now this is not burning, this is only spending. We're going to talk about the difference here in a little bit. We got rapid resilience. Anytime they take damage, they may instead choose to incur a single point of fatigue in order to subtract that damage from their ki pool instead of their health pool. Any overflow of damage is inflicted on their health, which is kind of cool. So basically you have like a quasi like mana shield or whatever. Basically you have an extra damage buffer, but you also have to take a point of fatigue to do so. So that's only can be used so many times. So next we've got androids. You know, I've kind of come to like the androids. I used to thought the android saga was kind of wonky. I didn't really like them. I mean, 18 was cool only because she like gets married to Krillin, and Krillin's just cool for cool's sake. But now after watching like Dragon Ball Super, I'm not gonna do any spoilers, so don't cover the eyes, plug the ears. I have a new respect for like Android 17. I thought he was a pretty cool character in Super, so I actually, honestly, I've been playing the Dragon Ball Super card game, and I've got me like a pretty good Android deck built and having a lot of fun with it. But back to the topic at hand. So aptitudes, offense, and defense. Then you have these 3 racial traits. You only receive one of the ones listed below. So then you have to decide, are you an inorganic construct? Are you a cyborg? Or are you a bioandroid? So are you like Cell? Are you like the like 17, 18, 16, those kind? Or are you just like just a straight up inorganic construct? You're just all machine all the time. So you get to choose which one you like. So if you've got the book, you're following home, I'll let you kind of read through those. I think all of them are cool in their own way. And it's great how you can kind of like, I could be an android and you could be an android, but we could be different types, which I think is pretty cool, instead of everybody having to be the same. Then we've got the aliens. We talked about this before, the super pixelated Ginyu Force, you know, all that stuff. So what's great about the aliens is that now you can kind of be like, I want to be an alien. All right, what do you want to be? You kind of have free reign to come up with whatever you want. So then basically you're going to talk with your GM. You're going to choose which racial traits that particular race of aliens would have. And then you're going to kind of go from there. Then you also get to pick and which 2 racial traits you have from below. There's a pretty good sized list down here too. Alien biology, atmospheric adaptation, biological armor, celestial, demonic, fission, extraordinary senses. You can have healing. Basically, then it gives you free of charge. This character begins with the following key attack: heal beam. Basically, just beep, I heal you, which is kind of cool. So then it gives you more customization to create that type of alien. So maybe even you and your GM could create an entire planet with an entire race of aliens, and like you're one of that race. So if the GM ever uses another one of that particular race, he already has like a template kind of that he can use. Or maybe the GM has come up with a bunch of different alien races he and or she is going to include in their game, which then you can be like, wow, this sounds kind of cool. I'll be one of those. They might even do most of the work for you. All right, so now we're going to go into attributes, okay? So the Dragon Ball Z RPG, attributes form the foundation of your character's physical, mental, and see, right there. Physical, mental, social. That is World of Darkness, if I have ever seen it, right? I know those of you that are watching that are familiar have to agree, right? But I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's a good thing because I love their system. So strength attribute is governed under like strength and offense. So if I have the offense attribute, that means if I attempt to purchase strength, I have an aptitude toward it, it's cheaper for me. All right. So toughness is under the toughness and defense. Aptitude, agility is agility and defense. Key is key and offense. Intelligence is intelligence and social. Charisma is charisma and social. Okay, so how it works, so you're going to start, basically it's just like the World of Darkness, you're going to start with 1 point in every one of these attributes: strength, toughness, agility, key, intelligence, charisma, okay? Now, when you go to purchase rank 2, let's say as an example, I have defense and agility as an example, or my aptitudes, okay? Defense and agility. So say I want to purchase the agility. I want to put more points in my agility attribute. I have 2 aptitudes. I have agility and I have defense. See, I have 2 matching aptitudes. It would only cost me 30 experience points for level 2. But now say you only have, say, defense. You only have 1 aptitude, costs you 45. Say you over there, say you have none of their matching aptitudes, cost you 60, right? So really, when you pick your race, it's going to give you the 2, and you're going to get that third one that you get to pick, kind of like a free pick of what aptitude you want. Think about how your character is going to be created, and then you're going to want to be like, well, I want to be an agile key user, right? So then I would take agility, defense, and say either key or offense as my third pick. So then my at least have 1 aptitude in key, right? So stuff is a little cheaper. So I like that system of how they derive how much experience points it costs. It's pretty simple to understand. See, it even tells you right here, right behind the scenes, you'll notice that rank 1 doesn't have a cost because you'll start with a free rank in each one of those. Because without at least one die in an attribute, the player, I'm reading right here, by the way, the player would have no dice to roll and be completely unable to make any checks or tests related to that attribute. Okay? Easy peasy. All right, so now we're going to go down to skills. So skills, there's a quite a lot. So I got the character sheet right here. By the way, so this is like the front page, like page 1. I don't agree with this. This being the first page. I would choose this page as my first page, and then maybe this be my second, or even maybe my third, or I would maybe kind of rearrange it. That's just my personal thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Like, how would you organize a character sheet if you were going to build this to make it flow easy? Because normally when you look at the character sheet, like, I know I preach about not just being a bunch of stats on paper, but when you're asked to look at your character sheet, you're looking at stats on paper, right? Okay? So I would have this at first. But you see, like, here's all your skills and there's all your dots, right? So acrobatics, block, command, all this stuff. If you guys are following along at home or have got the character sheet, you're looking at that. And then your relevant aptitudes apply to these particular skills as well. Because when we come down here to purchasing skills, now skills, just like World of Darkness, you do not start with 1 in every skill. Right? This is something, skills are based on like what you have learned, not how like naturally talented you are, but what you have learned over the course of your career, your life. So as an example, so back to I have defense, agility, and say key are my aptitudes. So like my sense key, I would have 1 aptitude toward. I have 1 matching aptitude. Rank 1 would cost me 25 XP. And if you have 2, like, it gets super cheap. Because if you have no aptitudes, it's 40. If you have 2, it's only 10 points. Now remember, it's not like I want to go to rank 4. I'm just going to spend 40. I have to buy rank 1 for 10, rank 2 for 20, rank 3 for 30, and then rank 4 would cost me 100 experience if I wanted to start with rank 4 with 2 aptitudes at the beginning of the game. That's not something you're going to be doing with 500 XP. So most of the time you're going to be between 2 and 3 on some of your main skills. Once again, you're going to go back to your concept, like what does your character do and what does it do well? That's where you're going to put like your initial experience and your skills. Then as you progress through the game is where then you would purchase other ranks and skills that are maybe not as high or learn new skills. All right, so now we're going to talk about Z-Souls. So when I first read through and looked at Z-Souls, I was kind of like, oh, this is kind of abstract and convoluted of really what it means. So basically, your Z-Souls, you see in the black text, each character must have 3 Z-Souls. What is a Z-Soul, you ask? So it's got an example here, right? So they've created a character, a mighty Namekian demonic clansman, that at one point attempted to enslave an entire Namekian continent before being exiled and sent into the depths of space. One could give this character demonic aura, because he's a demon, genocidal tyrant, and forsaken son of Namek. You're like, all right, basically three descriptive phrases about the character. It even talks about Goku, right? He could have like Saiyan from Earth, pure of heart, awoken by rage. If I don't, who will? And all that. This says there are dozens we can pick, but here are some you should probably know. Those 6 right there for Goku. You're like, okay, well, what is the Z-Soul for? What is its like mechanical function in the game? So it has 2 functions. First of all, they establish some abstract character traits that might define your character in some way. It's important to have that framework to work from to ensure that your character is something that isn't just a piece of paper full of bubbled circles. See, I like it how they put that in there. Second, they give players an incentive to properly roleplay their characters. In an event where a player's Z-Soul would come into play, they will get either a bonus die added to their die pool or penalty die removed from their die pool. So this is like where the GM's got to do a lot of work, thinking about the Z-Souls and thinking about your character and which circumstances would award a bonus versus a penalty. So if your character is a horrible dictator that has attempted to convince a small village of farmers he's a good man, penalty dice, right? I can understand that. If your character is the evil tyrant, oh, hey, folks, no, I'm the good guy now. They're probably not going to be having it, or if they are easily swayed. Maybe your guy has like a silver tongue or something. But, so this is like the most convoluted part of it was the Z-Soul section. I kind of understand it. It's similar to like nature and demeanor from the World of Darkness. So your nature was who you really are. Demeanor was like who you are on the surface, like the face you portray to people. It was determined like based on that was like role-playing aspects of how you would regain willpower points, right? If you acted as your demeanor did, you could get willpower points. As your nature, you would get more, things like that. So this is important for the character, but hopefully in like later editions, like as they do more playtesting and add to the book, they'll kind of expand upon this a little bit to give us some more information, or maybe even just like a bigger section of like examples of like, you know, maybe different character archetypes and concepts, or here's some good ones to use, just to kind of get the creative juices flowing. Specifically, maybe if you're having difficulties either grasping the concept or coming up with ones like that are good, or something that like fits the character. So this is all role-playing part, right? The Z-Soul portion here, okay? All right, so now we're going into like derived stats. So we're talking about willpower. So basically it's your intelligence and your charisma. We're going to divide that by 2, and that's how many like willpower points you have. I didn't give an example. So Majin Bula needs to determine her willpower. She adds her 2 stats together, intelligence, charisma, total of 5. Divided by 2, we get half, like 2.5. So, and then you would round down. So she has 2, maximum willpower 2. And then it talks about gaining will points, constantly in flux. Gaining will points is simple. Whenever a character earns any bonus die on a roll, as awarded by the GM, a player may choose instead to convert any number of those dice into willpower points, or will points. As an example, so say I'm GMing and you're doing something and you have very favorable conditions, and I give you, say, 2 bonus dice. You can be like, well, I'm going to take those 2 dice. I'm not going to roll them. I'm just going to gain 2 willpower points back. Okay? The character loses whatever immediate benefit the converted dice would provide in exchange for the opportunity to increase the power of a later roll. You may only stock a number of will points equal to your willpower attribute. So like this person up here with 2, that's rough. In addition, the GM may award additional will points as situations demand, such as a reward for good role playing. I think this is going to kind of tie back into that Z-Soul up there on the last page, because the Z-Souls are really like just a big role-playing aspect of the character. It's going to give your characters some detail and some life. Role-playing those well, I would probably award you will points in certain situations, kind of like it does in World of Darkness. Losing will points is easy. Whenever you take any kind of damage, you lose 1 will point for every 10 damage received from a single attack. Not cumulative, from a single attack. So it talks about an example here. If one attack does 17 damage and the next does 13, you only lose 2 will points because you take 1 instance of 17, which is 1 full instance of 10, but not of 20. So you only lose 1, and then 13 is 10 or more, you lose 1. You took a total of 30, but it was 2 separate attacks, if that makes sense. Then the GM may deduct additional will points as situations demand. Then you've got basic functions. This first is pushing actions. The second is fortifying actions. Both provide unique advantages that can give any character the edge they need in a pinch. You may push or fortify, but you can't do both at the same time. So let's take a look, shall we? So whenever a character digs deep to give an attacker action an extra oomph, called a pushing action. after an action is declared, but before you roll the dice, you may announce that they will push the action. They declare how many will points they plan to spend on the action. They may choose to spend as little as 1 or as many as they possess. After determining how many will points they want to spend, the player makes the roll as normal. The total is calculated as normal. However, a number of dice equal to the amount of will points the player spent automatically explode regardless of the threshold, so long as those dice count as successes. Okay, so what does exploding mean? So in this game, when you roll a 10 on one of your D10s, it explodes. That means you keep the 10, you take an extra dice, and you roll that extra dice. It could be a 1, it could not be a success, it could be a regular success, or it could be another 10, right? So say I roll 6 dice, I'm going to push it with 2 points. I'm going to roll my 6 dice. Say I get a 1, I get 2 successes, and a 10. Well, so the 1 is going to cancel out one of those successes, so it leaves me with one regular success. It's going to leave me with 1 10. So the 10 and the regular success are going to explode. Because remember, so as long as these... so what is it? So where was it? So long as those dice counted as successes. Now I'm assuming that's the order of operations because it doesn't talk about the order of operations and how this works. Like, do I roll the dice, explode the 2 successes and the 10 success, then I subtract the 1? Because if that's the case, then it's a different thing. I think we're going to talk more about that in maybe the combat section. What I plan to do, I'm going to see if Roll20 has this game's character sheet on there. I'm just going to make like a mock game with Roll20 so we can get the character sheets. We can roll some dice on there, some opposed actions to kind of demonstrate the different functions of the game. So just so you all can see it at home. Okay? So we'll talk more about pushing and fortifying later. Just know that willpower is used for those. Talks about willpower recovery and reinforcement. So a player may spend willpower to heal wounds, regain ki, or remove fatigue. In order to do so, the player must decide at the beginning of the turn, before taking any other actions, that they wish to spend willpower to recover. They then must declare which attribute they wish to recover. For each point of willpower spent, they may recover 3 ki, 2 health, or 1 fatigue. Recovery may not allow the character to exceed their natural limit, of course. Willpower may also be spent to temporarily reinforce the character's defense. In this case, like a recovery player declares at the beginning of the turn that they wish to spend willpower on reinforcement. For every point of willpower a player spends, the character gains 1 extra defense for the sake of determining damage reduction. We're going to talk about all that in the combat section. Once again, if you guys have downloaded the book and you're following along, you can go ahead and take a look at that at your leisure and kind of see where that's going. Okay? Got a behind-the-scenes section, so you're probably looking at this and realizing that Push and Fortify lose a lot of their utility in higher-level play, and well, you're right. At the highest tiers of play, a character is approaching a state of mechanical perfection, and once you reach that point, there isn't much that you can do to push your actions much further. When that happens, a character is going to start relying more heavily on refreshment and reinforcement to get mileage out of willpower points. So keep that in mind. As you get stronger, your dice pools get bigger, your willpower is going to be going from making actions easier to keeping yourself sustained during big combat. Now we're going to talk about finishing touches. So you're going to determine your basic health pool. Every character begins with a baseline of 10 HP. And for every additional rank of strength or toughness that your character gains an additional 10 HP. Now I'm assuming, so when it says additional rank, so you start with 1 strength and 1 toughness. So say I end up with 2 strength, 2 toughness. So by then I would have 1 additional rank in strength and 1 additional rank in toughness. I would have 2 instances of that, so I would have 30 hit points. That's how I see it. Power level doesn't mean much mechanically, right? So now this reference of power level, one of the things that I find kind of that they maybe need to work on is how they reference power level is in the beginning of the game, like how many experience points you're going to start with to build your character, versus now we're talking like power level, like I'm using the scouter of over 9,000, that kind of thing. So what you're going to want to do is to determine that, your power level is equal to the sum of all of your attribute and skill ranks times a multiplier dependent on your tier of power. A concept we'll get into later. So basically, so you add all that together, and at tier 1, you multiply it by 100. Right? You get to 10, you multiply it by 500,000. So, but it doesn't really mean anything, like mechanically. If I've got like a 15 million power level on this scale, doesn't really, like, mechanically, that doesn't equate to anything particular. It's just a cool number. It doesn't give me extra this, it doesn't give me extra that, it doesn't penalize me here. It's just, it doesn't do anything mechanically, but you're playing a Dragon Ball game and you want to know power level. All right? Now we're going to talk about our ki pool. Ki pool is simple, so basically it's double the combined number of your ki stat, your ki attribute, ki blast, ki control, and sense ki. That's going to be your total ki pool. So the ki pool isn't going to be like huge. It's not like how power level, like in the anime adventure game, like my power level was like the amount of ki that I could be able to generate and use. This is like my power level here is just like a number to look cool on the sheet. Ki pool is a different thing. Talks about your power up stat. The character's power up stat determines how much ki they generate without actually attempting to generate it. Because one of the actions that you can do in the combat phase is like power up. Basically, you can push that to generate more ki at the cost of your action. Okay, but base, every turn that passes in combat, the character's ki pool increases by their power up stat to a maximum, their ki pool's maximum. Your character's power up stat is identical to their ki attributes rank. Go to the example. So Amond is a human fighter with 2 ranks in his ki attribute, 3 ranks in ki blast, 2 in ki control, 1 in sense ki. This brings his ki pool to 16 because as the combination of those doubled. His power up stat would be 2 because his ki attribute is 2 right here. When he spends ki, it will increase by 2 every turn by to a maximum of 16. Then it talks about your fate points. So basically, you need to know starting fate points. To determine your starting fate points, you're going to roll a d10. On a success, so which is normally a 6 through 9, you start with 3, or basically 6 or more up to a 10, you start with 3. Anything less than that, you'll start with 2. Which is similar to kind of how like Death Watch and those did it. You would roll a d10, you would consult a chart, and it would tell you how many fate points you would start with. Talks about uses of fate points. You can spend fate point to recover 2d5 health and 1 fatigue. Fate points recover at the beginning of every session. So at the beginning of every session, you go back to your max, either your 2 or your 3. And then you use them, gain them, use them, gain them, burn them, whatever. So burning is, for example, is it permanently reduces your maximum. So say I have 3, I take a killing blow, the enemy kills me, I can burn a fate point, so go from a maximum of 3 to 2 to basically prevent that death blow. Okay? All right, so that's the end of the character creation chapter, because the next chapter we get into, chapter 3, is going to talk about transformations. So to give you kind of like a little heads up of what we're going to be talking about, it's got a bunch of art here. So it talks about tiers of power. It talks about basically how the transformations work, because there's a lot of like mechanical, statistical things to talk about with them. Then it goes into like your tiers of power modifier, which we're going to talk about. So like example, like the Arcosian transformation. So Frieza is form 2, is form 3, his perfect form, his 100% form. Then you got the 5th form, like Cooler, and then there's like the golden form. All right, we're going to talk about all these different ones and kind of what their additional bonuses, key drain penalties, all that stuff means. So we can kind of dive into that and look at some of the cool stuff they've got. They've added quite a lot of stuff to the transformations. There's almost everything from the series. Almost. I say almost. I don't think Ultra Instinct is in there, because I think this is just after like Resurrection F. So like the golden form is relatively new, like in this particular version of this book. Obviously, if you watch this at a later date and they have newer versions out, which they come out with like a newer version, maybe, or as they come up with newer versions, I will do like update videos talking about the new content so we can stay on top of like what's new in there. If you guys are interested in that, if you guys enjoy this series and you want to see like updates and stuff and talk about it more, I'm more than willing to do so. Well, all right, gamers, there it was. So we went over the introduction, we went over the character creation. There's a lot of information in there. I know this video is probably pretty long. I tried to give a lot of my thoughts on the different aspects of the character creation from like a longtime RPG player, because this is like this is a community made, like a homebrew, you know, just my thoughts of how I would improve it or change it. Now, once again, this is not set in stone, right? This is an ever-evolving thing by the group of people that are putting it together. So maybe after I get all through with it, maybe I'll even come up with some feedback. I can go to their website and leave some feedback. Not saying that I'm anybody special, but maybe if some of the ideas that I have, maybe they kind of think about, would be kind of cool. I also would like to see what you think so far about the game, or if you've got the book and you've kind of gone through it. You're welcome to put some comments down in the comments below about what you think. Like, do you plan to play? Do you want to play? Are you looking for a group? What kind of character you would like to play? That's what I'm thinking about. I'm like, man, if I was playing this, what would I play? Because with so many options to play, like, it kind of like opens everything up. Obviously, it would be based on what the GM kind of game they're running and what they're allowing and not allowing. But I think it has a lot of potential for a lot of open-ended character creation and development, which is one of the things I love the most about role-playing games. Like some role-playing games kind of lock you in and you're just down the road and off you go. But I like choices. That's why I keep referencing the World of Darkness, because it looks like it took a lot of reference from that, and I love that game system. Love it, love it, love it. All right. So anyway, I've rambled on enough. I want to thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, remember to hit the like button. If you want to stay up to date on further content, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you get notifications when I upload new content. And until I see you again in the dungeon, I'm Brian, your game master. And happy gaming.